Record on this. Hello, my dear
Hi.
ladies.
Mhm.
Hi, Alisa. So she's Alisa Carr, and she's connecting with us from Texas, from USA, confined a little bit in these times of crisis in her own place, but with her heart with us. Welcome, Alisa. Thank you for accepting my invitation. This is
Thank you for inviting me.
This is our sixth interview in this series I called The Time of the Feminine, that speaks about women as me, as you, who relate with the feminine in a very intimate and spiritual way. And in the description, I ask you to send to me just to know a little bit better who you are and what are you doing for the raising of the feminine or the awakening of these feminine energies. You wrote that your calling in relation to the feminine can be expressed as being a wise woman, a healer, and a priestess. And I will not get much longer in this. I just want to invite you in a few sentences to speak a little bit about you, and then we will start with the questions.
Okay. So I'm Alisa Carr, and I'm in Austin, Texas, and um, I have been as a healer for 25 years or so. I've been a licensed therapist and a spiritual director. I call myself an InterSpiritual director, and in both of those roles, I see myself as guiding others on a path of healing and of expansion. And in my study or opening to the feminine energy, I feel like healing is one of those qualities taking the inner journey, the more vague moon time type of journey, and in that I've studied and practiced working with dreams, and really entered deeply into contemplative spirituality and my own healing path. um, and I see individual clients, and I lead some circles here and there, and offer some retreats and write, and have a pretty strong devotion to Mary Magdalene that just keeps on kind of unfolding and unfolding, which is what connected me with you.
Yes, you already participated in a kind of online retreat with me
Yes.
2 days ago with Mary.
Yes.
I hope you got useful insights and guidance, and
Yes.
it was
It
a good
was really
experience.
lovely.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm happy to hear it.
And I also, like, I felt, I don't think I said this to you, but I could feel your intuition, like, coming through in response to some of the visions and things that I had, which I don't have on my mind right now what that was, but yeah, I appreciated that.
Nice. Thank you. Yeah, I'm also learning while I'm healing myself. I'm learning to develop more this intuition and the connection in the wider web of energies, because I'm very sensitive to energies and I work with energies. I'm learning more and more this. And
Yeah.
these restriction styles are very good for this kind of work, for expanding our awareness and intuition. Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, and in that regard too, I mean, that intuition is something that I have. Well, it's like the expression of emotion. The more that the more I have learned to be in touch with my emotions and in touch with my body, like the senses of my body, then the more the intuition opens up.
Yeah.
And mine works a little differently, I think, than a lot. Like, mine feels like like in my brain, and like this equals this, and so yeah, that's another aspect of the feminine that's been coming through.
Yeah. You said that you have been called to be a priestess of Mary Magdalene, and this is a kind of, or it was probably an eye-opening and a field that brought you expansion in your spiritual life. Would you like to speak more about it? What is your story about becoming a priestess?
Yes, as I was saying that calling myself a priestess is a relatively new thing, but yeah, I would like to tell the story of how I came to this point, so I grew up in the Episcopal Church in the Christian tradition, which I am so grateful for that, and the fact that the Episcopal Church, by the time I came along, did ordain women as priests. So I did get to see that, and in my I would work with scriptures. I learned to work with scriptures in a pretty deep way, and one of the first scriptures that I really sunk into and wrote from was one of the stories of Mary Magdalene anointing Jesus, and about that time I had read the book. Now I can't think of the name of it, but the one about that kind of brought Mary Magdalene and Jesus to the forefront. It'll come to me in a minute. And so anyway, about that time I went to this training that I'm a therapist. I got to get my CEUs every year. So I went to this ethics training, and I walked in, and this woman, it was in a hotel room. This woman had candles, had music playing, had beautiful cloths everywhere. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm exactly in the right place. And she began to tell her experience of Mary Magdalene from a different perspective than what I had seen before or heard before. And in that training, I met this woman. So over the years, I kept on running into this other woman that I had met at this training, in very strange ways, well, synchronistic ways. One of the crazy ones was I was moving my office, and I called this lead I got, and when the lady was telling me about the office, she was listed the people that were there and said this woman's name, and I asked if it was her, and it was her. And then another time a friend of mine ran into her at a training. It was just all of this that made me say, okay, I'm pretty sure that God wants us to be friends. And it's through her that I began to open up to the path of the goddess. It was kind of scary for me initially, because even though my upbringing in the Episcopal Church was fairly not rigid, we still had this message that the goddess is something that's outside the bounds of Christianity. And so, but one of the things that made me trust it was this one, her name is Heather, Heather's relationship with Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene. And so I started seeing how there were other faith traditions, other spiritual walks that had a devotion to Mary Magdalene, and that Mary Magdalene was leading. And then about the same time, I read The Meaning of Mary Magdalene, which is by Cynthia Bourgeault. And it was kind of like a Bible to me for a long time. It reflected my professional life. It reflected what I desired for a relationship, a partnership in which both people learn and grow and become their in their fullness, and introduced me even more to this idea that story that was in the book that I can't think of the name of, that wow, there's evidence for this, and that Mary Magdalene and Jesus were partners, and that she is just as significant in bringing forth the Christ consciousness as Jesus, and that they walk together. And so I've kind of like hung with that for a while, did all like reading of Margaret Starbird's books, and um, I began to have ceremonies for Mary Magdalene in Holy Week. Like there was this call to bring her back into Holy Week. And because she's like right there in the scriptures, but she's not really highlighted at all. And so I've done that for many years. And so this year, I actually had an experience with plant medicine in March, at the beginning of like middle of March, and which I'm now realizing was during Lent. And I got this message that I have not been treated as sacred, and the message was from the plant. The plant has not been treated as sacred, but about a week later, it just like I was like, oh my gosh, that was Mary Magdalene talking to me through that plant. And also at the end of that journey that I had, I was using this phrase like, I want your undivided attention. I was asking somebody for their undivided attention, and it was kind of like a joke because that person could only give me like 25 seconds of undivided attention. And then again, like about 2 weeks later, I was like, oh, Mary Magdalene is asking me for her undivided attention.
Exactly.
And so I had all of these other like threads coming through about like music, light codes, the high calling. I was already pretty familiar with the healing and the anointing part of that path. And so I just felt like I could not, at the time, it was right at the beginning of quarantine, I could not take like putting together a formal group that we were, but so I ended up doing these YouTube videos about, there's 5 of them that sort of came out of that experience. And about that time I found you, like I saw yours, and which was going to be after that. So it was all like just perfect timing.
I think I saw 2 of the videos, and maybe I posted one of them somewhere in the groups. I'm administrating on Facebook. Yeah, you can also, after, if you want, I can send this recording, and you can also put it on your channel for having visibility. Very interesting story. And it's not very far away from my story of connecting with Mary Magdalene. I'm not going to tell now the story, but it's through synchronicities, through, you said plant medicine. I'm also used to do sometimes plant medicine. And actually, the first time that I had, and I understood that I'm supposed to work with women and for the divine feminine, was in an ayahuasca session I did in Portugal in 2016. And it was, I think it was one day before my birthday in January. It was my 3rd session doing there with these people in Portugal. And the message about this was very powerful. And it was like something like, I've been doing this all my previous lives or something like that. So I'm like, I already had this something very familiar, but it's only now that I understand that is something that I'm supposed to do in this life too. And then I just started to organize circles of women, first in Portugal, and then I transferred to Norway, and I continued here. And it felt really familiar for me. And then, yes, Mary Magdalene arrived a little bit later in 2018, but I was already connected with her through Mother Mary and many women who were Marys in my life. Even the name Mary, they had this name. Even one of my grandmothers that passed away a long time ago, she was a Mary. And I started to understand this, that actually she is with us all the time, but at a certain point in our life, probably we need to really as you said, give her undivided attention, because this is also our calling. And speaking about it,
can I say one more thing
yes.
about the priestess thing? So the way that I feel like I embody or express the priestess part is through like holding space. So I have realized the power of doing like ritual and ceremony, even sometimes if it's not that elaborate, but on behalf of others, which I think is kind of traditionally the role of a priest or priestess, is to do those prayers and those ceremonies that hold space and anchor in healing, anchor in growth. And so that is a big way that I do, that I express the priestess path. And then another way is through the oracle. Like, so over the past couple of, so this that I'm telling you about, this pretty much started in 2005. So when I first did the in-depth writing, and I didn't even notice that it was Mary Magdalene that guided me the whole way until a few years ago. And it's just been in the past 2 years, I guess, and 1 year specifically, that the oracle is coming, like through tarot cards and through oracle cards, that I just feel a passion for it and a draw, and I get like really great feedback from others about when I share that with them. So those two places, like the ritual and ceremony and the oracle, are really how I do priestess.
Well, they are all different tools, but they combine perfectly. I'm also passionate about oracles and tarot.
Yeah.
I think I have now maybe 30 of them from different countries. I collect them. And then, of course, I don't use all of them all the time. Lately, I got very hooked on the Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary oracles, because they are so beautiful and the messages are really resonating. But there are so many nowadays. And actually now I got an inspiration to create my own oracle, and I call it
awesome.
Mary Magdalene Womb Oracle. So I'm actually creating a group of women, because we want to illustrate this oracle in a very particular original way that I don't tell it yet, because it will be later when it's finished. But I really enjoy to co-create with other women, something that
that's awesome.
makes the sense.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah. So yes, so this path of Mary Magdalene as a priesthood is called the rose path, or the path of the heart. And it's interesting that you call your practice the eye of the heart. So I would like to know what exactly this means for you, and how you manifest or you use this eye of the heart, because it's a very particular way of expressing a practice.
Well, the phrase came out of the Meaning of Mary Magdalene book. So she talks about the Greek word is nous, N-O-U-S, and it's found in the scriptures, and it's translated as eye of the heart. And it's that organ of spiritual perception. It's like being able to see with the heart. And I have a in my tree out here, this ancient one has shown up in my tree, like the markings on the trunk, and it told me that its name is the one who sees with heart eyes. So I guess we can see with eyes out of our heart, or we can put our heart in our eyes and see. And I was wanting to change. I just had my name as my practice, and I wanted to give my practice a name that expressed my, I guess, truth, or my heart. And I had a dream, and in my dream, I had all these images, and it was a mirror, it was this like blue eyeshadow, it was eyes, it was, what else was it? There was oil, like my forehead was very pronounced. There was oil on the forehead. And when I like worked with all of these different symbols, it kept on taking me back to like passages in the Bible where it says eye of the heart, and the third eye, like the intuition and knowing. And so I was like, okay, that's it. Eye of the heart.
This is very beautiful indeed. About spiritual practice, you call yourself as big InterSpiritual. And I would like to understand more about how you actually incorporate this concept inside your own practice as a priestess, and what actually or how this can benefit the raising or the awakening of the feminine today in your connection with other women through your activities.
So let me speak to the practices first. So I've been I was introduced into contemplative prayer through the Christian tradition called centering prayer. So that is a practice that I've had for about probably 20 years or so. And I know that way of meditating is very similar, like in Buddhism or in other places. Like it's the same thing, like having a focal point. And so, and then as I opened up to the path of the goddess, and that felt like another, which came through tarot also. So that was like this other way of a prayer practice to me, of getting to know these goddess energies and their stories and their archetypes, and how that was activating in me. And then the shamanic path, the native practices of, you know, using the elements, the smudging, that had always been dear to me. I always had a call. My dad lived in New Mexico for a while, and I just like loved being there. I went to this monastery for years in New Mexico, and everything about it just like makes my heart sing. And so then like incorporating some of those practices and beliefs, like, so then the animals and the plants, the plant medicine path that I'm on is through shamanism. And then being exposed to sacred chanting that uses like Kundalini chants and Sanskrit chants has been, I mean, I just love the music. It's so beautiful. And then I play it all the time. And then it was in my yoga studio too. So when I would go to yoga, I was hearing about these other archetypes from the Hindu gods and goddesses, and the practices and the rituals that they represent. And the term InterSpiritual is not mine. Mirabai Starr is, I think, the person that coined that, so just I've followed some of her writings and been able to claim, yeah, that is who I am. I'm a Christian that also connects in all these other ways to the spirit and to the goddess, the god and goddess. And as far as how that speaks to the feminine, or I don't know if I got your question exactly right, but so to me, what is very feminine about that is it's relational. So we're saying that we can be in relationship with first of all, other people who have a different spiritual tradition, like we can understand, we don't have to be in competition with them, or we don't have to be at war with them. And so that relational quality, I think, is a feminine quality. And then that all that could live inside of me too, like that there's room for understand. It's like my idea or my experience of God. Every time I learn something new or do a new practice, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And instead of narrow, it's wide and big. And so that oneness and that knowledge of, there is just one creator, and there's all kinds of different streams of energy, and we're just able to tap into so much of it. So and for some reason the word birth is coming to me. I don't really know, like it's out of that something is birthed. I don't really know what, but that, I guess that's the feminine piece of it.
You mean to alchemically fuse all these different elements or practices, and then to create something that is your own way of relating or manifesting these energies of the feminine.
Yeah. And I mean, also on a grand scale, like on a cosmic scale, like we're all when our idea of the great creative and mysterious spirit becomes big, we can birth so much more as humanity and as a people.
Yes. I would like to ask a question about somehow related with these times that we are living now, because we almost all of us experience this lockdown and some kind of isolation, they call it social distancing, but for some people it's complete isolation. And it's somehow funny that some people did not complain because they were somehow in isolation before. People that are more solitary or already used to this distancing. And actually in Norway, we also, some of us that are foresters coming from other places, we find that it's quite common to feel at home in this social distancing in Norway, because it's a kind of common trend to be somehow distant from other people in an everyday life for different reasons. But what my question wants to address is what actually this period, it's now more or less 2 months, right, that this pandemic and situation started in March, what this situation taught you, or if this situation created space for something that went deeper for yourself in terms of your spiritual practice or connection with the feminine.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, even this last leg of my Mary Magdalene deepening has come through this time. For me, I live alone with my dog Booker, and I actually went through a very heartbreaking breakup at the end of 2019.
Sorry
and
to hear.
Yeah, thank you. So it's like my core, what I have learned is that all of us, it's like we're in a cooker here, we're in the pot, and the heat's gotten turned up, and we're all dealing with whatever our core issues are. So some people are going to their default, behavior patterns. Some people, like, the woundedness is coming up strong, and my core wound is not like, I don't get worried about safety and security. I get worried about, am I loved or not? And so this coming on the heels of me, or I'm still grieving, I'm still healing from this breakup. I've had lots of times where I've sunk down into that place of, of not being loved or feeling like I'm not loved. And so I've had to, I haven't been distracted like in the past. I might like go out or go do something, and it's just made me sit here with it, and in that, like these, and I've known that it's a call to go within, and it's a call to be with the spirit, and it really has deepened my connection with Mary Magdalene. Like I'm not just making that up. Like it's as if it's gone from my head, like a knowing, down to my heart in a more profound way. Also, what I'm learning is I'm learning my capacity to hold space for other people. I'm learning that I have some profound, let's like say, darkness that can come up. So there's been times when I've even felt like I was kind of doing spiritual warfare. And it's difficult to know what to believe. And actually, just within the last couple of days, I've been like confused about like what is going on anyway. And knowing that I absolutely believe that the spirit has a hand, Mother Earth has a hand in getting us here, so that as I heard somebody said, we all need to put our little butts in time out so the earth could heal, and we could think about it, and I absolutely believe that that's been important and valuable. But so in this not knowing what to believe, the message that I'm getting is, okay, well, that is an invitation for me to learn even more to trust my own wisdom, and to continue all of these practices that are allowing me to tap into my own wisdom.
Exactly. This is the moment, I call it now, and I was speaking about it with other women, is the moment of the womb, of the darkness of the womb. That doesn't mean necessarily is dark and ugly or dangerous. It's a moment where if we go there, no matter what we find, we will dive deep into some very profound wisdom. And from that wisdom, actually, we can find then our center and focus on something that is really truthful for us and is good for us. Because personally, I don't watch TV. I sometimes receive news through other mass media platforms or social media. And I always try, sometimes I share if I think it's something that people should know. Sometimes I'm even censored because they say that it's fake news. I don't know anymore what is fake news or who is producing the fake news and for why. I know there is a big, massive manipulation behind a lot of news that we're receiving, and we are really invaded. So I'm trying to create my own practice of discernment. And I go in tune with my intuition, and sometimes my intuition tells me, even if many others will say it's fake news, sometimes I see there is truth behind. So I prefer to tell it to the others if I think it's useful. And we're right now at our fifth question. That is the last question because it's the way I created this series with 5 questions, like a standard number for each of the person, each of the lady I interview. And You spoke about wounds and how we can actually connect with these wounds when we are forced sometimes like in these times, to sit with ourselves, and we cannot go out and distract ourselves with other activities or with people and other energies. And I would like to know, what do you think, because you say you are also a therapist, so you have daily practice with other people. I suppose there are also women and men, probably. What do you think, what is the major feminine wound that the world or the humanity needs to heal nowadays? And I'm not speaking only strictly about this moment of the pandemic, because this is a moment. It might take several
Right.
months or years, but it's still a moment in the span time of a history for our world, for humanity. But in these new times, because we are entering now this year, they say it's the year of the goddess, the year of Mother Earth, and it's the year of a new era, that is the year of Aquarius, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is that major wound, feminine wound, that can be found both in men and women, that humanity needs to heal in order to get to the other level of awareness?
Right. So it's hard to narrow it down, because I think that the wound is the feminine, or the feminine has been wounded, like all aspects of it. But I think I'll return to the message that I received from Mary Magdalene and the plant, which is, I have not been treated as sacred. So I think, like, for this moment, it feels like the core wound is forgetting that we're sacred, and forgetting that creation is sacred, and forgetting that plants and animals, and that our relationships with all of those things are sacred. And when we forget that we're sacred, we forget that our neighbor or our family member is sacred, and we forget that the earth is sacred. And that allows us to, oppress. It allows things like the oppression of women. It allows the oppression of people of color. It allows power to be wonky, to put it mildly.
To be distorted.
Yes. And so yeah, when we forget that we're sacred, it allows there to be war. It allows us to distort, like, foods, and oppress, like, let money rule the world, and all of those things.
Hopefully we can change, and maybe this crisis is a catalyst for change.
That's what I'm praying for. And Carl Jung, the dream man, I love to repeat what he said, which is that doing our inner work will heal the world. So, like, that, I have been on a mission for 25 years, but it's been pretty focused during these 2 months to help as many people who want to heal, because the more people wake up and the more people, like, sit with their own wounds, the more we will remember that we're sacred and behave that way.
Exactly. Thank you so much for all these interesting insights you gave to us. I have a small gift for you, but I need first to put some light, because now it's getting darker here. We are in Norway, so 9:30 almost. It's still light, but I need more light. So let's see if I can get a little bit more, just to be able to read you something. I'm not sure if you know this author, Sophie Bashford.
Oh, love love the cover there.
Yeah, it's the symbol of the Ankh cross here.
Yeah.
This is an image of a goddess, because you are the goddess, we are goddesses, all women. We can have this potential, actually, we have the potential of being a goddess if we start to heal and to connect with our true essence, and we don't fear anymore to be who we really are meant to be. And she said that this is a tool for working with the sacred feminine to awaken, heal, and transform. She's quite famous in Europe. I'm not sure but I suppose she's mainly based in London, but she works on a international level. And
I want title. I want to get that
yeah,
from you.
I can give it after this. I think you can buy it on Amazon. I'm not sure where I bought it, but somewhere online.
Yeah.
And in this book, there are several goddesses, among which Mother Mary, Isis, and Mary Magdalene, that are, I feel that all three are very much connected with each other. And I want to read to you an excerpt of the book, and it will be about sacred marriage.
Okay.
That might be something interesting. So it's like Mary Magdalene on Hieros Gamos, or sacred marriage rituals. Let us assume that such soul partners arrived, were entranced by your glorious inner treasures, stepped enthusiastically over the threshold, and entered the temple of your love. Here, the masculine soul memory was taken back to the ritual of sacred marriage, or Hieros Gamos. These ancient Mediterranean ceremonies celebrated God and Goddess as a symbol of the cosmic flame union. A man would symbolically take the role of the god, to be anointed by a temple priestess who took the role of goddess. Through sacred sexual ritual, the masculine was thus divinely empowered by the sacred feminine. He remembered the feminine luminaries that resided within the temples, and was stirred into feeling his own divine presence by their flames of love. And further on, Mary Magdalene describes how masculine truth is revealed through feminine truth. He also recalled what this divine feminine space signified for his own personal evolution. He may have become overwhelmed and frightened by the soul power of your temple. He was magnetized by your heart open, only to have his own divine masculine template reflected back to him by your clear mirror. Like an oracle of truth, you showed him in an instant the highest purpose that he could create and deliver on earth, and this template shone hard with the unfiltered sunlight of his true masculine potential. Those masculine souls drawn to you were truly touched by your light, and yet perhaps they could not pick up the tools of truth that you revealed to them in order to begin creating their deepest purpose. That choice is their divine right, and they are entitled to free will. Yet, in the backroom of your goddess psyche, the word coward may continue to echo. It might disturb you that the masculine could not stand the real heat of your temple fire, and yet was more than happy to play and enjoy it while he could stand safely on the edge. It might even privately disgust you that not only did you allow him to enter, but you opened some of your vault of secrets to him. If you dispensed feminine secrets and they were not used as intended, as a soul gift to the masculine psyche, then what has happened to those secrets? Did he trash them, ignore them, repress, or trivialize them? Sister, I, as a woman who has walked in the world, understand these feelings and wish to bring peace to those places in you that may continue silently to burn with fury. You may even feel that a blasphemous trespass occurred. Your innermost secrets have always been offered up to those who truly needed them. It is not our place to judge whether or not they have been understood or correctly used or even respected. We must simply let go and know that it is the work of the goddess when we merge our energies with any other soul who arrives. Healing has happened whenever two souls are joined in love. One of my roles here in this temple is to soothe your pains and wounding from the times when you did not feel seen as sacred, especially within intimate love. It is also to prepare you for a great positive shift in the realm of sexual relationship. It is to herald a blessed change, one you have fervently prayed for, not only for yourself, but for all humanity. I have the feeling that this is such a beautiful text, and I just picked it by chance. I mean, I put a mark for knowing where I go for Mary Magdalene, but it just came out for you and for other sisters that will see and listen to this interview. So I hope you enjoyed the message. If you want, I will send details about the book so you can buy it. I think it's an amazing book because she really knows how to write and to express everything that is essential and truthful about what actually means to be a goddess in our times, because we all have as women the potential to be goddesses and to be venered as sacred, as you said.
Yeah. Well, let me just say, Irini, like I'm receiving that as a gift, and it's very timely and profound. And again, your intuition, your knowing is like right on. And
I'm guided.
I do take it as healing and soothing. So I didn't anticipate that I would be the recipient of some healing today, and I am. So
thank you.
I'm very grateful for that.
I don't consider myself a healer. I'm considered mostly as a channel and also space holder. But sometimes I know that the messages I receive and even the energies I channel sometimes are for healing people. So I'm glad to hear this. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you again for joining. And soon I will display the video on the interview on different platforms, and I will also send it to you if you wish to put it in your channel. And I hope we can connect again in the future. It was very good to meet you. I feel we have many things in common.
Yeah.
And continue the good work for the goddess and for Mary. She's much needed today.
Yes, you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a blessed day. Bye.
Bye-bye.